Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the greatest recordings ever. And today we're talking about Handel's Concerti Grossi Opus 6, but on modern instruments. We've already done a talk in this series with the period instrument version, which was Andrew Mancy's on Harmonia Mundi, which is absolutely stunning. Well, so is this. Now, the Concerti Grossi Opus 6 are... Well, it took me a long time to come to them. First of all, it's like Handel. Handel's lots of music, notey. He liked writing lots of notes. There's 12 of them, and they take up like 3 discs. You could squish them onto 2 if you play them a little faster, but it's a lot of music. They're rich. Handel called them grand concerti, and he was right to, because they are big in scope and melodic abundance and all kinds of things like that. They're just beautiful. And Handel had such a feeling for the sonority of the string section. I mean, a lot of Baroque composers, they have strings because that was which formed the basis of your orchestra, and they accompany the soloists in the concerto, and so the string parts are kind of rudimentary. But Handel was into sonority, was sexy. And the string writing in these pieces is voluptuous. It's beautiful. It always sounds rich and yummy. Anyway, they're beautiful, beautiful works. I mean, and it took me a long time to get into them because, I was a percussionist as an orchestral player. And we percussionists were always, we have an inferiority complex because we don't do very much. I mean, there are practically no percussion parts in Baroque music. I mean, Handel wrote for a carillon, and occasionally, you get drums and things in the fireworks music or something. But there's not much aside from timpani, and so they're quite rudimentary. And unfortunately, even in classical period stuff, you usually spend most of your time sitting around doing nothing, and so we're a little jealous of the people who get to play the tune, which is mostly the string players. And string players, of course, love music for strings, which leave out everybody else, the woodwinds, the brass, and the percussion. And my colleagues in my community orchestras only wanted to play Handel Concerti Grossi, and I always was, because I was in charge of repertoire, was, we did some. I was okay, but I was just like, oh, gosh, here we go again, Handel Concerti Grossi. And I understand why. I mean, now I do, because they're just gorgeous, and they must be just a joy to perform. They need tam parts, but that's okay. I mean, I forgive him that. Most of these works were written to be played as interlude music in the course of his oratorios. And for that purpose, he also added oboe parts, which may or may not be heard. They're completely unnecessary. I actually prefer hearing these works without the oboes. They don't take away anything, but I just think the string writing is so lovely that there's no need to gussy it up with anything else. I just have fallen in love with them, and I collect them and trade them. I swap them around like trading cards. I mean, they're just incredible. So there are 1 million recordings of the complete set. Lots and lots and lots of them on both period and modern instruments. And the differences are actually less than you might imagine. Well, it depends on how they're played. If the period instrument people play with no feeling whatsoever for Handel's, wonderful, wonderful attention to string sonority, then they're going to sound like hell. But normally speaking, you should have a large body of strings, because you have the main group, the Concerto Grosso versus the Concertino, the small group of soloists who are, popping in here and there with more, intimate commentary on what the big group is doing. And so you should have a large group of strings. They should have a basically beefy and warm sonority when they're all going. And it seems to me that people kind of get that. I mean, they understand you have to have an opposition between small and large. You have to play with a certain resonance and sonority to create big contrast, because Handel was a big contrasty kind of guy. And so the recording, which I regard as the greatest recording ever on normal instruments, is this one, I Musici de Montréal, under Yuli Turovsky on Chandos. It's really exceptional. This is just first of all, they're a fabulous group. I mean, they are a remarkable, ensemble. Number one. Number two, they play everything with real passion. I mean serious passion. I don't mean sentimental, oozy, gooey, icky passion. I mean just urgent passion. And wow, does this music sound fabulous when you do it that way. See, Andrew Manzi does it that way too. I think he puts quite a bit of feeling behind what he's doing. But these guys really supercharge the music. And it's not in a vulgar way. It's not that they're ridiculous about it. I mean, they don't. The tempos tend to be quick, and the contrasts are vivid and the rhythms are sharp. It's what period instrument people do, to be honest with you. Only it sounds better because the instruments have more resonance and more sonority and a better attack. The handling of vibrato is tasteful. They're not heaping whipped cream on the whole thing, but there's an urgency and a vividness, a vibrancy. They're just sensational performances of these 12 concertos. They're gorgeously recorded. I mean, they're superbly recorded, which really, really counts because you've got to have an acoustic that allows that, the rosin to scrape against the strings and really just resonate. And it resonates. So if you haven't heard these, I mean, they're not an English group. They're not the best known group. There's a possibility that, you might have poo-pooed them for that reason. But it's a terrible mistake if you do, because wow, can these guys play. And they do themselves proud. They cover themselves with glory in these Concerti Grossi. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.